Hi, I'm Peter from Coffee Pass, and today we're looking at coffee machine boilers. So there are 4 different types of boilers in coffee machines. You got your Thermoblock, your single boiler, your heat exchange, and your twin boiler. Let's look into them and see how they affect the machine. The first boiler we're going to look at is the Thermoblock or the twin Thermoblock. Now these boilers are used in entry-level coffee machines, and the advantages are they heat up fast, really fast. And they're also priced effectively so that you can have machines at an entry-level price point that can do coffee and steam. Bear in mind they can't do coffee and steam at the same time. So you have to run your coffee, wait, and then do your steam. What a Thermoblock is the boiler is literally a block, and you got your element embedded in the boiler, and you got a little passage around the boiler within the boiler. As the water travels through that passage, the boiler is hot and it heats up the water, and that's your brew water. The disadvantage to that is the pipes are quite narrow, so if you're not using water that's filtered, it is quite easy to scale up. So with these machines, you tend to have to descale them quite often, and that's normally built into the service cycle or the clean cycle of the machine. And inside the Thermoblock in the center, that's where you have your hot water and your steam. To allow you to have a hot water tap, generally on smaller machines, the hot water does come out of your steam arm as well. And your steam, which comes out of the arm, obviously is controlled by a different function here, which will either pick up from the top or the bottom of that center of the Thermoblock. Or if a twin Thermoblock, you might have 2 different coils. The advantages are they're quick. The disadvantages are that you can't do steam and coffee at the same time, and then generally good at making one set of coffees. The next style of boiler up is a single boiler or dual purpose boiler machines, and that's what we're going to look at next. The single or dual purpose boiler machine. Now, as the name suggests, this has a single boiler, and that boiler is doing all functions. So the hot water inside is both used for your brew, it's used for your hot water and your steam. So the way that happens is it runs 2 different thermostats on top, and the machine heats up to the brew temperature to run your coffee, then you flick a switch and it ramps up to your steam pressure, your higher temperature to have steam. What this means is you can't do coffee and steam at the same time. So you tend to find them on smaller, more entry-level machines. And because generally the boilers sit right on top of the group head, they're mounted directly to the group head, that group head warms up really fast too. Compared to a heat exchange or twin boiler machine where it has to kind of push the heat through a thermosiphon on your group head, here the boiler is connected to your group head, so they heat up fast and they steam up fast because the boilers are so small. So that's the advantage. The disadvantage being you can't do coffee and steam at the same time, and you have less control of your temperature. Think of they got 2 thermostats and your temperatures sit between the bands of those thermostats. What that means too is when you do coffee and then you do steam straight after, once you go do your next set of coffees, they tend to sit a little bit high in temperature, and that's when you have to flush a bit of water through your group head to bring it down. This is known as a cooling flush or temperature surfing. And that's where these machines get a little bit complicated, but for their price point, the ability to heat up so quickly and to have such a good coffee at this price point, they are very popular entry-level machine setups. If you were running just black coffee and not worried about steam, they actually do on a black coffee basis really perform against the bigger machines. It's just once you start adding steam and that movement between the 2 with the temperature surfing, that gets a little bit harder to operate. The good thing is if you can learn to use these machines and really get them to perform, you can move up the ranks into a heat exchange and twin boiler machine and really nail it. They really are a good training tool. The next machine along the line as you progress tends to be a heat exchange, and that's the next one we're going to look at now, the heat exchange. Now, with this type of boiler, what it effectively means is there's a boiler, so a tank of water, and there's a pipe that transverses the boiler, and that is separate to the water that's in the boiler. So if you think of it, you've got a boiler with water in it, and that bottom half of the water is connected to your hot water tap on your coffee machine, and the top half is connected to your steam tap. That's the steam. Then there's a pipe that goes through, and that's called the heat exchange. And effectively, as water goes through the heat exchange, it heats up and it comes out your group head. Now, in a case like this machine where it's an E61 group head, it's got a thermosiphon system. So you've got water from the heat exchange constantly going through the group head and back out. So it keeps that group head warm, bringing that temperature into the group head to keep it stable. But effectively, once you have this set up, you can do coffee and steam at the same time. Now, To control the temperature of the boiler, there's two different ways to go about it, and it depends from machine to machine. Sometimes you can control it with either a pressure stat, which is what this rocket apertamento has, or you can control it with a PID, which is what the next level rocket up in the Giotto or Mozzafiato has. Now the difference is a pressure stat is like an electric switch that controls the temperature. As the pressure rises, it turns off the element. When the pressure drops, it turns on the element. So you've got a bigger variance. With the PID, it's the same thing, but it's got temperature probes and it's doing it electronically. So you get a lot flatter, cleaner temperature line. What that means is on both setups, you can do coffee and steam at the same time. But with a pressure stat setup, you get a bit more temperature fluctuations. So when you do your coffee, you normally want to just flush a bit of water through to stabilize that temperature. From a boiler's perspective, you've got the anti-vacuum valve and the safety valve. The anti-vacuum valve allows the boiler to pressurize, and the safety valve protects it from over-pressurizing. If it goes over pressure, it releases that pressure and keeps the boiler safe. Effectively, you get this boiler in mid to top end home market machines, and you do get them in commercial cafe machines. So a very popular choice and something where the machine starts getting real. So the heat exchange is a popular option. One downside to the heat exchange is you can't control your steam pressure and your brew temperature at the same time. So if you lift the pressure of the boiler and want more steam pressure, you are going to get a hotter brew temperature. And if you wanted to say drop your brew temperature, you're going to get slightly lower steam pressure. So they're correlated. So you have to kind of give a balance that you're happy with on both sides. For it to be able to be controlled independently, that's the next stage up where you get a twin boiler machine. And that's the next boiler we're going to look at. The twin boiler. As the name suggests, the twin boiler is two boilers. You got your brew boiler, where your coffee water comes from, and independently you got your service boiler, where your hot water from the bottom and your steam from the top comes from. What that means is now you got full control of both the coffee temperature and also your steam pressure. Generally speaking, you're running a PID controller, so very stable on both sides. And you can do coffee and steam at the same time while being able to control the coffee temperature and your steam pressure independently. This is a high-end setup, so you're getting it on the best home coffee machines, and commercially you're getting it on the top coffee machines you see around. Think La Marzocco. From a home perspective, think Rocket R58, Rocket R91, La Marzocco Linea Mini, GS3, etc. Now, one difference is, with a twin boiler machine, you normally have two different setups. Either they're running a group head like this, an E61 group head, we're getting a thermosiphon of the water going through and back into that brew boiler, or you're having a saturated boiler, like the Rocket R91 or La Marzocco GS3, where the full boiler, the actual group head is connected to the boiler and the hot water is right there. Now the main advantage, as mentioned before, is control. With coffee, it all comes down to being able to control the exact temperature at the group head and the steam that you want. So twin boilers really is the ideal situation. Thank you for watching this video on different styles of coffee machine boilers. If you have any questions regarding the boilers, hit me up on the comments below. We're doing 2 to 3 videos a week, so please subscribe to stay up to date with everything we're releasing. And if this video has brought you value, please hit that thumbs up. Thank you again.